Madrid. They have also worked on affection and on the Juntos más que dos itinerary. They are both professors at the Madrid University. They are colleagues, and they teach pastoral care of families. They have been speakers in different seminars, pastoral and academical seminars. Antonio is president of Good Love Foundation that promotes at international level affective and sexual education in line with the teaching of the social teaching of the Church. So Antonio and Celia are highly welcome.
Buenas tardes.
First of all, good evening. Today we are very glad to be here. It's 28 years ago that we were receiving the blessing of the Holy Father. We were just married and we were here on the honeymoon. So it's a joy to be back here in Rome after 28 years. We would like to thank the Dicastery for inviting us to participate in this World Meeting of Families, and thank for the support given to construct our community. We want to discuss it because this is an initiative of a group of lay people that was conceived to help in the formation of our children. Today, we have to say that the true meaning of love and sexuality is deeply distorted. The image that our children receive of love and sexuality does not correspond to God's design. The dominant culture distorts the true meaning of love, sexuality, and corporality. Sexuality tends to be trivialized and impoverished and presents to us either as mere amusement or as sole object of search for measure. Access to information today is unlimited, everything being accessible at the click of a button. The symbolic image that our young people have of sexuality is simply pleasure and nothing else. Sexuality education is seen in this dominant culture really very much in also consumption of pornography, and it is sex becomes a product, degrading both the one who consumes it and the one who appears in the contents. This disorder and the use of sex tend to progressively destroy the person's capacity to love, making pleasure instead of sincere self-giving the end of sexuality, and reducing other person to objects for one's own satisfaction. On the other hand, the environment in which we live seems to impose an affectivity without limits, a narcissistic, unstable affectivity which does not always help the subject to reach greater maturity. As it was said, it is a romantic love that dies when matrimony dies. Therefore, this the reductionist vision of activity and sexuality can both destroy the person and generate future marital breakups. Due to these two factors, affective illiteracy of our culture and the search for pleasure as the ultimate goal of sexuality, it is very difficult for young people to understand the depth and true meaning of love and sexuality. Affective sexual education can only be understood within the framework of an education for love, for mutual donation. In this way, the language of sexuality is not sadly impoverished, but rather enlightened. Educating it means educating to love, and it is therefore important to educate to love, to respond to the call for life and to live it fully. This education is really a path that helps young people to discover the beauty of their vocation to love, and integrating all aspects of the person and through which the person gives himself or herself totally to the loved one. We must help our young people to learn that love is not only based on emotions and feelings, but it is also a total gift of self. They must learn, and today educating love is all the more necessary as the environmental culture spreads a proposal that disfigure our young people's capacity to love. To educate in love is to help our young people to know themselves, to value themselves, to relate to others, to discover that they have been created to love and be loved, and to know how to integrate that person, the love of God, originally received. To educate the freedom to love is to relate not only to recognize affections, but to learn to integrate them and direct them towards the greater, towards the gift of self, capable of being a true communion of persons. The love of God they have received as first must be turned back. Therefore, teaching sexuality and affectivity is a topic that concerns us very much. We want to guide our children, but they are not sure about how to do it. We don't know how to face this task, and very often we find ourselves puzzled because we don't know how to find how to support them, or we cannot find an appropriate environment for our children to grow. Educating sexuality is not just one of the many dimensions of education. We're all intrinsically full of sexuality, and we understand that sexuality is a gift and that we have a task. We have to work on our person, on our body, because it's not just a fragmented dimension of our being. All our being is full of this, and therefore educating sexuality is part of integral education of the person and must be carried out all through all life. Sometimes sexual and emotional education is seen only as information or as a series of skills, so acquiring some competencies. It is important for us as parents to have a true and authentic education so that adolescents and young people in this physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual change that they experience when they're adolescents can have resources to properly integrate all sexual and affective drives in that vocation to love that we carry as innate in our hearts. Pope Francis clearly says yes to this type of education. In fact, in Amoris Laetitia, he is wondering who speaks of these things today, who helps them to prepare seriously for great and generous love. Sex education is taken too lightly. In this sense, the Church considers that there is a need and urgency to give young people a positive, gradual, and prudent, affective sexual education within God's plan and consistently with the teachings of the Church. To avoid the possible disorientation and dangers arising from the present situation, parents and educators need adequate help to turn to that is readily available to them. This help can be translated into programs, educators, parishes, and pastoral realities that help parents in a subsidiary way in this educational task. Affective sexual education is therefore a path, and parents' role has to be interpreted as an accompaniment of children during the whole process of maturation. How can we help parents? How can we support parents and educators along this path where there are so many difficulties. Good Love is a program because it's a community that was conceived to offer this service to parents and educators. Some years ago, in response to the challenge launched by Apostolic Exhortation, the Dicastery for Laity and Family and Life invited experts from 12 countries to a 2-day seminar to discuss the need to provide assistance to parents in the effective sexual formation of their children. Following this meeting, the participants saw the need to create the community Good Love. This is an international initiative that gives information and acts to the best resources and programs available all around the world to parents and educators. But what is Good Love? Good Love is a place of encounter, a place of exchange for all those who are committed to providing young people with an education for love in line with Christian value and anthropology. Good Love is especially addressed to parents who are the first and foremost educator of our children, but also to other educators and institutions that work with us in the education of children. The Church recommends the association between parents, so parental association, to get informed, to provide information, to be able to act freely, to protect, maintain, and complete the mission as primary education of children, especially in education to love and in love, and thus act against the flood of proposals that disfigure their capacity to love. That is why Good Love was conceived as a community. Why is it a community? Because it's not only a reference site for parents to get information, but it's also a meeting place for all organizations and agents that have a common purpose: help young people discover the beauty of love and sexuality. And this characteristic of Good Love, which is the love of giving, in the name of the association, we see this love because the name is Good Love, so eternal, infinite love, relational love between a man and a woman, a continuous, total love. So what do we offer to parents and educators with Good Love? The Good Love community strives to support and cooperate with parents so that they can fulfill their ministry of love towards their children, so educate children to love. But this assistance never means depriving parents or diminishing their irreplaceable right and duty to form their children. Thus, Good Love is a place where you can receive help for this important task, and the community offers us a directory of effective sexual educational program that responds to the Christian conception of human love, and these programs can help parents first to acquire an adequate knowledge of the nature and importance of sexuality and for harmonious integral development of the person, but also support young people during formation, because information is not enough. We have also to consider how to pass on this message. And Good Love offers also a network of resources, for instance, also film, video clips, or bibliography, etc. So some important material for education to love. Many of the best programs of the United States, France, Germany, Spain, Argentina, etc., have been used by Good Love. But what do we offer? Good Love was conceived to help parents and educators around the world, but also aims to help dioceses, parishes, and other pastoral initiatives. The different communities and parish groups will be able to help parents pastoral care for family, operators, etc., catechists, etc., to search for quality content, resource and programs that can be used in their formative and pastoral tasks. At the same time, Good Love will be greatly enriched by the incorporation to the community of the affective sex education program that are being developed in the different dioceses and bishops' conference of the countries. In this way, Good Love will contribute to the promotion of these programs at international level, extending their reach beyond the diocesan level, reaching, therefore, more families and young people, and thus being a means of dissemination that will have to choose the most appropriate program that best suits the educational and pastoral needs of each educational and pastoral situation. But what do we rely upon? In order to implement this ambitious initiative, we have created a foundation whose main objective is to support the Good Love community, both financially, so giving the necessary financial resource to fulfill its mission, and also operationally. This foundation aims to promote worldwide this effective sexual formation in line with the social teaching of the Church. It is subdivided in chapters or working groups by geography to develop our mission. We wanted to have financial resources to implement the programs. Working groups have been created in US, Argentina, Mexico, Portugal, Spain, France, UK, Austria, Italy, and Lebanon. To summarize and to conclude, what is Good Love? Good Love is a community that is there for us, is a place of reference for us parents, is there that we can take information how to support our children on effective sexual education based on an international community, and therefore publishing all the important initiatives taken by each individual countries, because in the Church there are very beautiful initiatives. A lot of good is done, and this has to be communicated. Today we officially launch Good Love, and this is the best way where to do it, the World Meeting of Families in Rome. We hope that all the initiatives of sexual effective education from all around the world can unite their forces with Good Love. Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you. I believe that. Oh, I see here. Good evening, Father Fabio Rosini. Welcome. Good evening to you all. Thank you. On my part in particular, I'm very happy to see you, albeit on the screen. I have to introduce to you Father Fabio Rosini. Actually, he needs no introduction, but I will stick to the text that was given to me. He is a Roman priest since 1991. Since 2011, he is the director for the vocational service of the Diocese of Rome, after having worked as a parish priest and in many other capacities. He's a well-known priest in the Diocese of Rome, because through a vocational path called the Ten Commandments, the Decalogue is the official name, and through also a later path under the 7 signs of the Gospel according to St. John, and he helped many young people in the Diocese of Rome together with his staff. And he engaged several young people in a vocational path that has been quite fruitful here in Rome and also in many other dioceses in Italy. Let us introduce also Angelo and Elisa Carfi. with whom Father Fabio Rosino introduced both remote and proximate courses for preparation for marriage. They were followed by many, many engaged couples. Elisa and Angelo celebrate their 15th wedding anniversary, like we are celebrating this year. They got married when they were 30 years old. Today they are parents of 4 children, Maria, Francesco, Chiara Letizia, and Susanna Bethany. Angelo is a geriatrician and works in a hospital. Elisa is a seismologist, and she works at the university. And for a long time, they've been working with Father Fabio Rosini on the remote and proximate marriage preparation courses in the city of Rome. Welcome, welcome, Father Fabio,
Grazie.
Angelo, and Elisa. The floor is all yours.
Buonasera, chiedo
Good evening.
venia per non essere
I
con voi,
apologize for
ma
not
la
being
pandemia
there
è
with you
arrivata
in
anche
person,
alla mia persona
but
e io
COVID
sono
reached me
positivo e
too. I
speravo di
tested
essere
positive.
negativo
I hope that
oggi
I
per
would
poter
test
essere
negative
presente, ma
today
niente,
to
il
be there with
Covid
you,
non
but
perdona.
COVID is relentless.
Siamo appunto Don Fabio Rosini, il dottor Angelo
I'm Fabio
Calfi e sua moglie,
Rosini,
dottoressa
and we
Elisa
have
Tinti, e
Dr. Angelo
costituiamo dal
Calfi and his wife
2012
Elisa
l'equipe per
Tinti.
il
We have
discernimento
established
vocazionale della
since
diocesi di
2012
Roma.
the
Ed
vocational
in questa
discernment team
veste,
of the
negli
Diocese of
ultimi
Rome,
10
and in this
anni,
capacity
abbiamo
over the past
proposto,
10
come è
years,
stato detto,
we have offered,
un
as I
duplice corso
mentioned,
di
as was mentioned
preparazione al
earlier,
sacramento del
a dual
matrimonio,
course of
uno
preparation
per
for
la
the sacrament of
preparazione
marriage,
remota
one for
e uno
remote
per la
preparation
preparazione
and one
prossima al
for the
sacramento.
proximate preparation for
Hanno
the sacrament.
usufruito di questi corsi molte
Many
centinaia di
hundreds of engaged
fidanzati.
couples have
E questa
benefited from
premessa
these
ci serve in
courses,
realtà
but
a
this introduction
ricordare che il nostro
basically
viaggio
serves to
cominciò
remind
in
us that our
compagnia di
journey
un'altra
became
coppia
in the company
formata da
of
Chiara ed
another
Enrico
couple formed by
Petrillo.
Chiara and Enrico
Chiara
Petrillo.
Corbella Petrillo
Chiara
morì
Corbella
mentre
Petrillo
stavamo
died
terminando il
as
primo
we were completing the first course of remote preparation that we had devised together with her. And the cause of her beatification is currently underway. This was mentioned also in the last few days. Her presence has profoundly marked our experience. To speak in a useful way about the formation of priests and seminarians who can validly accompany a premarital catechumenate is to put our finger on the sore spot of priestly formation, which suffers from the slowness to assimilate the change of epoch, rightly and appropriately pointed out by Pope Francis. The difficulty in our case is assimilating what a true initiation is, that is, being able to conceive the authentic logical environment for a catechumenate. The problem that we find upstream is that for centuries we have assumed an intellectualistic idea of both formation and education. With this kind of approach, we form our priests, and we have the risk of thinking that we can form future spouses along the same lines. Basically, there is a tendency to believe that what such a noble and central act in ecclesial life as traditio fidei and every other possible traditio connected with it can consist in the transmission of information. In this way, we are Descartes' children, to the extent that we believe that logical understanding is enough for the experience of conversion and growth. And yet, we should always mention the foreignness to this kind of approach of our Judeo-Christian tradition, which stems from the biblical tradition where wisdom is eminently pragmatic. In the scriptures, the true wise man is the farmer who knows how to farm the land and make his vineyard bear fruit by pruning and tending to it. The icon of the shepherd is essential throughout the history of salvation from Abraham to Moses to David. It is the image of the guide from patriarch to king, who knows how to lead his flock to water and how to make it grow. The art of traditio is the art of nurturing, a verb that means many things, from nurturing appropriately to empowering those who are being led, exactly as any parent must do. There is no doubt that if we set up the management of the premarital catechumenate as an instructional course, quote-unquote, made up of nice things to understand, we will fail in our mission to give substance to marriage formation. We need to go back to the early Christian sensitivity, the one of the first centuries, the one that generated the baptismal catechumenate, which implied a practical, experiential, liturgical path, and was guaranteed by the confessores, whom, from the height of their experience, assured before the bishop the readiness of the candidates for baptism, something that remains in the language of the Christian initiation of adults in the name of the so-called guarantors, who then engage in dialogue with the bishop during the baptismal scrutiny. We believe it is very difficult for those who have been formed in an intellectual environment and devoid of direct experience of a catechumenal type process to carry out a true logic of initiation. If we want to form pastors who know how to raise a new generation of spouses, it is necessary that they come from a similar path, that is, to lead on a path that provides an objective experience of training in spousal life and parenthood. We need a new generation of seminarians and priests. How else can one become good guides on a path that was never traveled? Our need will be to train, to form in a degree of pragmatic apprenticeship and not just intellectualism, those who will have to guide on the path of conversion the people of God and the young people who are preparing for marriage. To better understand this, we must go back to a vital statement made by Pope Francis in Evangelii Gaudium, a statement that should be the linchpin, the keystone of this entire discourse. In this statement resides that change of ecclesial epoch to which we have been called. To prioritize time means to be concerned with initiating processes more than with possessing spaces. Initiating and attending to the dynamic of growth that is necessary for the life and solidity of a marriage is an inherent dimension of the fundamental and indispensable dynamic of the Christian life, that is the paschal experience, the one whereby one learns to go to the Father in every single act of one's life. If this path has been traveled, then not just understood, then you know its ways, difficulties, crises, recoveries, tools for growth, resources, and weaknesses. But every movement needs a purpose. Every path needs a destination. And whoever leads someone else on a path, including the spousal path, must be clear about the end point, must be clear about what the target is for which the process is initiated. It is none other than one and only one, the building up of the church, which is the one authentic vocation of every baptized person. The path of spousal formation does not tend toward a simple matching of marriages, but towards the formation of Christian families, i.e., small churches of Christians who live marriage, not marriages just with a superficial varnish of Christianity. It becomes useful and important for us to remember that at this time the Church reflects its synodal, fraternal, synergistic nature. We can walk towards heaven, the only true goal, only in communion and fraternity. If we do not form pastors who strive for communion, but prima donnas of the ecclesial stage, who aim for personal outcomes, individual activities of pastoral success, or even worse, we keep forming officials, basically, clerical officials who are capable of defending the position of the ecclesial space, then these priests will not serve us on this path of Christian formation simply because they have not lived it either. In my personal history, having studied as a musician before then entering the seminary, I had to experience that good teachers are not the great soloists, but those who have struggled to become musicians, those who have experienced the difficulties of apprentices and know how to help them overcome them. These are the couples we need to lead a true path of marriage preparation, and these are the priests we need. Quite often, in fact, experience has taught us that the priests who are good at helping couples are those who come from a civilian working experience, who have arrived with human and Christian maturity at the formation for the sacrament of holy orders. Entering a new epoch requires us to go back to knowing how to evangelize, and thus to move beyond the affirmative, a certain tendency that enunciates the truths of faith as a solution because of their inherent force, to enter the didactic logic that tends to deliver the tools for living the truths much more than defining them and explaining them only logically. These tools must have been experienced in the first person singular. Otherwise, this will once again taste like theory and not real life. One last comment before turning the floor over to my team, brothers and sisters. There are essential axioms that must be remembered for the time of preparation for marriage. The first is that a good engagement is not one that ends in marriage, but one that leads to truth, since engagement is the time for discernment. The second axiom is that the proper charism of engagement is truth itself. An experience of truth is the specific priority of engaged couples to found on a healthy relationship, the small church that is the family. And I would like to give the floor to Angelo and Elisa Carfi. The lay couple, together with the priest, accompany engaged couples through their own desert. Engagement is, in fact, a time of life that is characterized by the utmost uncertainty, in which the person is brought to confront, often very harshly, his or her own fundamental relationships with one's own self, personal history, God, and loved one. Nothing has yet been confirmed. Much can easily be forged. Christian engagement is a certain experience of the cross. In discerning one's innermost calling, one finds oneself dependent on the freedom of the other and the free action of God. The proactive drive can be greatly frustrated as a result and expressed only in verifying the authenticity of what we are experiencing. Engaged couples may feel stuck in mutual cages, prevented from action, from freedom. They feel like they're lost in a place without references. They may see their dreams and plans crumble at the slightest disturbance. Chiara Corbella, when asked explicitly shortly before she died, said that the most difficult part of her life had been the engagement, not so much her children's illness or her own illness. The engagement, in fact, had been the time to abandon her own strategies of conquest, the time to learn how to wait, the time to really trust that her groom, Enrico, would be given to her by the hand of God. For her and Enrico, the engagement was the training ground to mature that abandonment in God that later characterized their incredible marriage experience. In contrast, the ruinous path of Saul, king of Israel, who failed to wait for God's timing and enter into an attitude of unconditional reliance, is constantly open, accessible, and retraceable. Lay collaborators are married couples who, having passed through this crucible with the help of God and the Church, have experienced how indispensable it is and enjoy its benefits on a daily basis. This is why they agree to relive together with the group the fundamental passages, the mistakes, failures, and intimate dynamics. Their formation has already taken place on the field of their engagement and constantly reoccurs in marriage. However, to be effective in the group, it needs to be enlivened, clarified, enhanced, and made usable. Thank you.
Grazie molte. Era un intervento che si ricollegava perfettamente con la plenaria a cui abbiamo assistito.
So we would like to thank Don Fabio and the couple that just spoke, and best wishes. to Don Fabio. And now we give the floor to a couple coming from Taiwan that will speak about their experience about accompanying, continuous accompaniment of young people. Joseph Teyucho and Claire Yijan Yen have been married for 28 years and have 2 children. Claire is the director of the Center for Family Life of the Chinese Episcopal Center, and she graduated at the Institute John Paul II at Melbourne in 2007. Ever since, she has been promoting Catholic teaching on matrimony and family. She teaches theology at Fujian University and has organized and led many pastoral care courses in Taiwan, Malaysia, China, Philippines, and United States. And based on her experience, she wrote a book with the title Guidelines on the Pastoral Care of Family in the Light of Amoris Laetitia. Her husband, Joseph, who is a teacher of economics at the university, like me, is supporting Claire in her pastoral care activities. So Joseph and Claire, welcome.
That's greeting in Chinese to you all.
Dear brothers and sisters, we are very much blessed and truly grateful to be here to sharing our experience in accompanying spouse who are just like us. Embarking a long journey in an ever-changing society, we stand up here not because we are expert, but because we often tumbling alone in this role. And many times, we have been greatly supported by other couples' companionship to withstand a lot of challenges. Dear Joseph, what do you think about this picture?
They look very icy. In the slide, you see a pair of terracotta porcelain Chinese traditional figure of spouses. They look quite icy. And this reflects contemporary marriage challenges. And we, as the helper, the companion, need to figure out ways to break the ice or melt the ice, but not break the marriage icy couple. And we believe the secret is in building and sustaining accompaniment communities.
Just like we heard and been inspired by the first conference theme, the domestic church and synodality can be and has to be brought into the presence of the accompaniment community. In this slide, we show the conclusion of the marriage accompaniment training group conducted in Taichung Diocese, Taiwan. Bishop, the parish priest, and of course, many couples, all activity participate in the whole program. truly showing the community of the communion.
To deter the very harmful social impact inflicting upon the newlyweds, a good and comprehensive premarital program works like a vaccine. We all get vaccine. A good and proven effective one, of course. It may not keep the virus out of your body 100% of the time, but it significantly reduces the big risk of marriage collapse and breakdown. To be sure, a good and comprehensive premarital program has to be tailor-made to confront the contemporary challenges for the engaged couple. They need to learn how to develop good communication skill. They need to get their finance right, their aspiration for children. They want to have a common spiritual life together, and so on and so forth. And certainly, this kind of frequent programs require a dedicated and diverse group of couples to serve the purpose. And you see here right away the need for manpower, for human resource is really big. But do not overlook the positive feedback loop we can create here. The beneficiary, that is, those who attend the premarital program, the engaged couple, they are the perfect candidates to become the future benefactor, that is, the future companions. This is the essence of the accompaniment community.
Here I want to show you with a very successful program. It is a reformation program, specifically for the parish priests who really need to have a retreat and then to reload, especially in confirming the temporary challenge in pastoral care to youth and to marriage and the family. The program simulates a real commitment programs so as to develop what the Holy Father passionately calls out. This is what I'm asking you. Be suffered with the smell of sheep. In this slide, a bishop in China was seen developed into the discussion group in drafting pastoral solutions for couples in conflict.
And listening is a very important element of the accompaniment. In times when people are forever busy, and during the pandemic, the format of listening can be and should be very creative. Here, what we are showing you is in Taipei Diocese of Taiwan, training more than 20 volunteer operators who were on a family hotline, taking calls from those who need companions in their marriage. So we take the call by phone or other social networking platforms. And in the accompaniment community that we hope to build and to sustain, care for young children is also very important. Developing family toolkits can be the first step. In the slide, you see a few handwriting and drawings of young children. These are the vision they saw, they draw after they listened to their parents' reading of the Sunday Gospel. You will be amazed how our children at very young age, with all their senses, understand the words of God. And why not bring the young men, young youth in the family to be a part of the accompaniment? What you see in the other part of the slide is young high school people working on drafting fun, interesting, spiritual exercise for younger children.
We know for sure for many couples at different stage on their marital life, calling for help, dialogue, accompaniment, but who are suitable to be their companion? These accompaniment couples not only need compassion to begin with, but also need to understand of the church teachings. For this, we are calling out on the Faculty of the Theology to be a key sponsor of the accompaniment community. This couple who serve as a companion also need to be equipped with fundamental skill in counseling. What you see in the slide is a week-long workshop conducted in Malaysia for 4 dioceses together. For this, we call out the counseling professionals to join the task force.
Patrice Godet, with Father's Heart. In 6 episodes of short recording, 6 fathers come before the camera. Remember, we as fathers are pretty shy in front of the camera. Speak about their hearts, their sharing. They share and speak on how they feel and learn to be a beloved father, a tender and loving father, an obedient father, an accepting father, a creatively courageous father, and a working father. Again, you will be surprised by how much heartfelt appreciation of these fathers speaking, sharing, recording are well received by the viewers. Their sharing reflect the often overlooked feature of the accompaniment community, the presence and the voices of the fathers. So yes, fathers, you should speak often with Father's heart. So to summarize, we want to build and sustain an accompaniment community. And these are what we have learned and what we really want to share with you. Number one, the challenges for Christian family, Christian marriages are real and ever-changing. Number two, synodality is an open invitation to all. Number three, take premarital program very seriously. It lays a solid foundation. Number five, Reformation program has long-lasting benefits for parish pastors. Number five, children need accompaniment. And father needs to speak about their hearts. Number six, we need creativity, motivation, and all the resources that we can have, meaning compassion, theology, and counseling.
We are called to join the sustained of Accompaniment community. Come and you will see. Now I'm asking the question for you. Do you want to join us? One more time. Do you want to join us? Please say, yes, I do. Thank you very much.
And that was the final talk of the fourth panel, accompanying fatherhood and motherhood.
So thank you very much for all the thanks to the panelists. And what they said was
I'm sorry,
perfectly
today's final panel was the formation of caregivers,
the title of the
formators,
panel,
laity, presbyters,
and also what was said
seminarians.
before. I was commenting with Matteo how we undergo continuous formation, because this experience is telling us that formators are warmly invited to continuous permanent formation, both sexual affective formation and in accompaniment to marriage and married life. And therefore, I think that this communion of intents with priests and between priests and lay people have all to be cherished and continuously strengthened and reinforced. We are lucky because it's something we can do in our parish, and we hope that this experience will help also those who listen today to the panelists to find new ways to support young people and engaged and married couples. I learned a lot. This was my time for training, for formation. Thank you. Thank you. Gabriella Gambino will give you a gift as souvenir of this meeting. So a round of applause to all the panelists. They taught us a lot about how to accompany married couples. Thank you, really. Now be patient, please. Thanks God we finished on time. Well, we finished a little bit earlier, but I have a boring task at this point.
And we hear once again,
but it's for a good reason, so that we can reach the Roman parishes timely and well organized. the responsible of the delegation of the episcopal delegation, etc. So the contact persons in general received this afternoon an email where they are told the number of the bus
the secretary
for
of
your
the
delegation. So head of a delegation have received a mail, but we know that it's difficult that all.
And we'll go away from the feed from the translation for the moment as they deal with some housekeeping issues for the end of the program. This evening there is a there's a panel this evening on family communion, a style of ecclesial communion, which will take place in the various Roman parishes, followed by events held in the local parishes. The 2,000 some delegates who have been invited to partake in the Vatican's version of the World Meeting of Families here in Rome have been staying with Roman families as part of the event. And they will be returning to the parishes of Rome this evening to be part of the local community, to get to know them. And the presenters right now are giving some very specific details for how that is going to be accomplished. Today, as we mentioned, is the final full day of events. Tomorrow morning's schedule begins with adoration in the morning, followed by another conference on the family as a path of holiness, another panel on the paths to holiness, and later married couples and families on holiness and everyday life. That's going to take place tomorrow morning. Okay. And that is all the time we have for this evening. My name is Christopher Wells. Thanks to Catholic TV, Catholic Faith Network, EWTN TV, Admiral Darshan TV, and Luminous Radio. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Praise be Jesus Christ. Laudetur Jesus Christus.
Catholic Bishops' Conference. Tutti questi nel pullman.